I just want to go straight into it, Jim Campbell. Brighton 3, Spurs 2. Spurs were 2-0 up at half-time. Do you have sympathy for your North London rivals?
Yeah, because realistically, you have to have sympathy for anyone who watches their team capitulate like that. It just seems absolutely ridiculous, doesn't it, when you lose like that?
Not what you were saying on our WhatsApp group.
No, I was very quiet about this actually, this weekend because it's kind of unfathomable, isn't it? Because it never looked like happening. Obviously, Brighton are a good team. We know they're a good team. But it's so annoying when you watch your own team just kind of slip below their own standards. I think Man United fans will probably feel like this a lot lately as well, because you're like, why aren't you doing it properly? Yeah. Like, why aren't you doing it to the standard you normally do it?
Well, I think Man United have had a bigger run-up.
It's very, very different. Of course it is. And I think actually Destiny Udogie, I think, is a brilliant player. I've seen him keep some very, very good players very quiet. Is unlucky with the timing of that mistake that lets Brighton into it. Because I think if that doesn't happen,
he had two or three in this match, though, didn't he? And obviously one was the stinker.
It's kind of exactly what I mean, really. You got players who were playing below their level for some reason, which again wasn't true in the first half.
Yes,
but you do sort of wonder what Ange said at half time. Did he put on, like, instead of some pumping AC/DC, did he put on a sleep podcast or something? Yeah. Some white noise,
nice and gentle second half. I think we know that that's not what he's going to do. But you're right. I mean, you clearly just went for an Australian-based band because it was Ange.
That's true. Yeah, he probably would.
But not Soundgarden, Savage Garden.
Very Savage Garden, Powderfinger.
Oh, well, I don't know them.
Oh, if you like Oasis, Marcus, you'll very much like Powderfinger.
I don't believe you. You said this before and let me down.
I have, yeah. Well, Brighton had 1 in 5. Had they? I think they've had a stinking run-up. I think it sounds like something they do this season. But
we are not your Google.
But Spurs are.
You're never going to host Match of the Day, are you?
Have they? Spurs had, obviously, I think 3 or 4 players who'd played on Thursday, and it really looked like they'd all played on Thursday. I know a couple of them came off the bench and stuff, but they couldn't keep that press up for longer than
Spurs
45 minutes.
They were on a roll. 5 wins on the spin with Tottenham Hotspur. It looked like it was going to be a 6th, of course.
Well, I mean, like, do you think that it was just travelling away? Your squad's still there, whether they get time on the pitch. You're still preparing for that match, I suppose, aren't you?
I don't know. These things can happen. I just think they all, as everybody keeps doing, underestimating Danny Welbeck.
Yes.
I mean, he missed a good chance in the first half. They had their warning.
He was lively, wasn't he?
But they did not learn.
That goal was like...
Get in! It was like a slam dunk.
It wasn't like a header. It was like he punched it with his head.
Yeah. Honestly, I don't know. He's sort of an Indian summer, you could say, to his career. I don't know, because he played well for Brighton, but this season...
Yeah, I mean, when he joined Brighton, it seemed like a bit of a stopgap, didn't it? He'd left Arsenal and gone to Watford, and it had been okay, but he needed a move, and it felt like his career was winding down, but he's found a perfect home.
He needs sea air.
Apparently so.
He needs more buttery keeper fingers, I think.
Herzler is getting the best out of him. I mean, he's put a lot of faith in him, of course. He says, right, you're up there. Obviously, with the injury to Pedro, has made it, more the limelight is on Welbeck.
Some teams just need that focal point, though, don't they?
Wow.
Sort of go, just basically a pointer, as if to say, well, head towards him,
yes,
and then after him, get it in the net.
There you are, you see. And it's as simple as that sometimes.
But Spurs are the first club to get to 10 losses from a winning position of 2-0. In the Premier League ever, and the second is like it's 7, so they're 3 ahead.
One of my favourites.
We've isolated the Spursy gene, guys.
We have, and that is it Spurs' fault that ridiculous cliche exists in football that 2-0 is a very dangerous score?
Well, that's a start, isn't it?
Because I was petrified for Spurs at half time. I thought, what are you doing? Keep it at 1.
Dangerous.
And so it proved to be. With Brighton's turnaround. On Jorginho Rutter's assist for his winner, Danny Welbeck said, I nicknamed him Velcro as his touch sticks to him. It was a nice assist, and it bloody well was.
It's a really interesting signing, Rutter, because he scored 8 goals in 51 appearances for Leeds in the Championship last season. So obviously there's more to the game than goals, but he was a player where he signed for Leeds for a lot of money, and he seemed to sort of flatter to deceive a little bit, and there was a sense of like, is this guy really up to much? Seemed an unusual move for Brighton to bring him in at all, but obviously they've been proven right. They've spotted some attributes he has that are beneficial to them, and it's working really well.
But Leeds... I'm sorry to say it's Leeds fans, but Leeds really...
They had to sell, of course.
Yeah, but because a lot of people would say they should have got promoted last season.
Yeah.
And that's why they've lost a few players, because those were players.
I mean, more from Brighton's point of view, though.
Right,
It's an interesting player to target.
Yeah, but they do quite like an exciting, dynamic
Bit of money ball going on, isn't
forward play. Yeah, of course. I mean, but Brighton, again, you look at the team, they've got a fair few goals everywhere. They've not got they've, perhaps when I don't know, Ferguson gets up and running a bit more, but they've not got a player who you think, right, that player's going to score 20 plus goals this season. Very few sides do, or even 15 plus. But there's goals everywhere in that sort of forward line. And as I say, you often use the word dynamic when talking about them. But you could say the same for Spurs, although the way Brennan Johnson's playing, you fancy him to get 15 plus this season.
Definitely.
I know they
finished.
I know they lost the game, but
he does one-on-one. He looks like the best striker in the league.
He's having he's on for the player of the season.
He is.
If he carries on like this, he's had a remarkable upturn in form. I mean,
great at finding space, isn't he?
He is.
Just always seems to be just popping up in acres and acres of space.
Yes, which is always something that is going to worry opposition, and your fans and your man are going to love that, because you're right. The positions he takes up, they're making the intelligent runs.
Always, it's the runs, isn't it? It's like it's that.
He's so lively.
Well, he's like kind of like you can't switch off for a second because he's always on side and he's always behind you inexplicably. He's like, how has he done that?
Is it because he seems like such a nice chap?
Yeah, maybe.
You just don't really worry about him.
Maybe he chats to the defender.
He's probably not up to much.
You just want to have a little chat for a moment. Well, I could always go.
But the way he finds out Spurs, it's Defoe-esque for me. It's like kind of the similarities are.
Oh, I like that.
Telling, I think.
I think if you play him and Richarlison, because Richarlison is so dramatically not a nice chap, Johnson will get even more space. They'll forget he's even there.
I don't dislike Richard. I don't particularly.
He's a Wally, isn't he? He's just a Wally.
Oh, okay.
You throw one flare into the crowd and everyone brands you a Wally.
You do one little chicken dance at the World Cup.
Get one tattoo of your teammate. Everyone says you're weird.
I know. Did you hear that Postecoglou let the Brighton manager, he wasn't Brighton manager at the time, Fabian Herzler, come and watch a Spurs training session last season? And Ange joked before the game saying, he gave him too many answers and had to palm him off because of all his questions. Well,
he couldn't have known, though. He was going to be in the frame. Well, maybe he didn't know he was in the frame for a Premier League job.
But was that the first half? Was that was all about? Don't worry, lads. I know you're going to be worried about
the
this.
Cheat code?
We're going to absolutely pummel them in the second half.
He looked bereft at the end, didn't he?
Well, he really did, actually.
Absolutely crushed by the Spurs of it all.
And that's a good point to make, because even in the post-match interview, I know sometimes Ange he can be quite an emotional character, as a lot of us are, and he can be, full of the joys, understandable if it's a good result, and a little bit down. If not, that's perfectly reasonable. He's not chippy, he's not as chippy as a lot of other managers are, and I don't think he was this time round. I think he just knew that wasn't good enough. And
Could he use his bench a bit more? I just think he always seems to sort of come to his substitutions rather late in the game, and especially when you have been away in Europe on a Thursday. I
think they're a bit light at the moment, though, aren't they?
I think when you see the game change like that, as was it Joe Hart or Stephen Warnock was saying on Match of the Day, it's very difficult, obviously, to turn it round. And you don't need a pundit to tell you. We've seen that many times before. Once the momentum's there, it is difficult to shift. But you're right, as a manager, you think, well, what can I do now to try and influence? Because you've got to get some kind of foothold in the game, having had such a strong one. And I mean, you're right, Peter. He brought on Basuma, Sarr and Moore with Basuma and Sarr 11 minutes to go.
Yeah.
And Moore
you're giving yourself very little.
Yeah, and they'd been 3-2 behind. For 13 minutes until he made those subs, so possibly. But I think with Ange, I mean, look, this could just be a blip. These things can happen, okay, in the Premier League. So one can go overboard with this. However, the reaction of the manager, the reaction of some of what people are saying about Spurs is that perhaps this performance maybe was coming, I don't know. But the criticisms of Postecoglou's style of play is that defensively they can come up a little bit short, especially under the cost. Do you think that at the moment, Jim, that Spurs lack a little bit of pragmatism? Because it's great to watch.
Yeah, massive.
Great to watch when they're in full flow. Absolutely. In fact, I've said it before and I'll say it again, that even when they go down to 10 men or 9 men, as we saw against Chelsea, I love his approach. I genuinely do love Postecoglou's approach. But that pragmatism, when you're 2-0 up and you think, OK, we've conceded early in the second half, then how are you going to respond?
Yeah, massively. I mean, and it's a stick they've been beaten with a lot, isn't it? And I mean, they've lost 3 games already, which is a slower start than you would have expected from them based on how they sort of flew out of the blocks last season. But I think perhaps part of that is maybe because teams know actually that they are going to keep going, so space will appear and you can try and exploit it. It was interesting to me, Brighton kind of stayed with a version of their high line that they got so punished for against Chelsea and still managed to make it work because they know that you can that you can get at Spurs like that. And I think absolutely, I think, you know, sooner or later they have to address that this is a problem they have and that this is a weakness they have.
But I just don't think he is. I think Postecoglou is still going to keep on doing what he does.
I mean, if we take him at face value, and he's a sort of character where I don't think there's any reason not to take him at face value, then absolutely they're going to sort of stick to their principles. Okay. I guess the idea is just like refine plan A so much that you become sort of invincible through it, and that seems like it seems like that's just doomed to fail in the Premier League.
Do you think
with that defence it is?
but they're all really good defenders.
Well, this is
to a man, they're really, really good.
Yeah, and obviously, I mean, to play a high line, you know, he does have a bit of pace back there. It's fair to say Mickey van der Ven has pace.
He's got a few people's pace.
Yeah, he does. Yeah.
There's like a whole man in each leg.
The pace of 10 men. He's. I would go as far to say he's nearly as fast as Adama Traoré.
More on him later.
But With Postecoglou, we all like him personally. And last season, it's certainly breath of fresh air in the Premier League, all that kind of stuff.
But the cult of Postecoglou is starting to tarnish a little bit. I think a lot of Spurs fans are starting to go, we can criticise the manager for example, making quite late substitutions or, you know, giving a team talk at half-time, which clearly hasn't garnered any sort of results.
Yeah. I mean, did you
affected a downturn of the team, one would suggest.
I mean, did he pop his head and just go, more of the same, lads? I mean, but you're right, and you could see where I'm sort of slowly going with this, that Spurs, obviously, they were maybe a touch disappointed that they didn't get Champions League last season, but still, though, Europa League is very respectable, and especially when you think of the quality in the Premier League.
You would have got an extra day off if you did Champions League, wouldn't you?
Well, indeed. You look at it this season, it is early days. I just wonder if this continues come the end of the season. Obviously, it depends where they finish, but I don't think they're going to finish in the top four. I don't think it's ridiculous to suggest that. But
you're not getting fired if you get back in the Europa League.
No, I don't. I don't think necessarily. I just wonder if, like you've suggested, Peter, that.
Out of his depth, is he?
No, out of his depth.
After a run of 5 wins, out of his depth, is he, Ange? Disgusting.
I mean, essentially...
You get what I'm saying.
But it comes back to what you're saying earlier, right? Surely at some point he has to, you know, quietly make them a bit more pragmatic when needed.
Indeed, and I'm not sure that he's going to do. I'm not confident that he's going to do that, but we shall see. I mean, Spurs did want more entertaining football, understandably, after Jose Mourinho, Nuno Espirito Santo, and Antonio Conte. Absolutely. So that when he first got there, you know, it was obviously great, but you do need the results as well. But as we say, it could just be a little bit of a blip, but. Would a Nuno side not have competed a bit better physically?
Don't
in the
talk
same
about
way
Nuno and Spurs. It's a long time ago.
Yeah, I think they've forgotten about that, and I think we should as well. Danny Welbeck, him again, said Brighton want to challenge the establishment. Hey, he's got all his trust, hasn't he?
Was that her manifesto? Challenge the establishment?
Yeah, you're the Prime Minister, you silly sod. And she did indeed challenge herself too much. But with Welbeck and Brighton, they're now in the top 6. Can they sustain that, Peter?
I'm going to say no.
Yeah.
But we can enjoy it for now.
We can enjoy it for now.
For Jules, for the Pebbly Beach.
Yeah.
Your boys are going to take one hell of a beating by the end of the day.
Shops that sell nothing but absolute nonsense.
The vanity shops, yeah.
Come on, it's the British seaside. Leave it alone.
Those aren't the shops I mean. They're very different in Brighton.
Oh, are they?
Just tat.
No, there's loads of tat on the seaside.
It's a different type of tat.
Oh, like is it
very middle class tat?
Oh, like
that shop. That shop that's called This Is Not a Butcher's.
You hate that.
I fucking hate it.
Right.
But if you hadn't have been brought up properly, you'd have stuck bricks through its windows by now.
Right, sure.
What is in it? Is it
just tat? It's just
tat. It's not a butcher's.
It is tat that will be there in a million years' time.
With the cockroaches.
Just choking marine life.
Is it? Would you call it shabby chic?
Yeah, maybe.
I'm going to start selling CD-ROMs.
But the thing is that's
still there.
I think that's upper middle class. People often have a go at the middle classes. I think you've got to go one step beyond. Anyway, we'll discuss this in the break.
It's closed.
Oh!
Yeah.
No, is it
Sorry,
closed?
if that
Round of
was your
applause
livelihood.
for
That petition you did, Jim, seems rather spiteful now, doesn't it? All right, coming up after the break, we've got a Rooney red card, and in Germany, there's 2 penalties conceded in the most silly way possible. See you in a moment.
Did you believe it to see it go in?
No, I turned away. I thought the boys would be fuming at me after hitting it, and then I don't know, the keeper chucked in the net, so fair play to him.
Welcome back to the Football Ramble, everybody. Sunderland midfielder Alan Brown there after Meslier's horrendous mistake on Friday night. It was a sickener.
The way that he looks at the floor, the ball, the net,
everything.
the people laughing, is like, you know, like when it glitches through your leg in FIFA and you're like, that's not fair. You know, you've done something there, computer. And he's like, there's space and time just bent to provide that ball going through my body. 'Cause it does look like it just clips through his chest.
He can't understand it. He's a bit like, I don't. And also as well, the way
I swear I had a chest there.
exactly. The way Sunderland celebrated, as one would with the 96th minute equaliser or whatever it was. I did feel like the keeper was entitled to go, oh, come on, you can't celebrate like that. You should be relieved. You should be jubilant.
It's that Limmy, gonna take a little time. Just him walking near some water. Gonna take a little time.
Oh dear. Thanks to friend of the Ramble, Ashley, for sending us that clip. You can become a friend of the Ramble too by heading over to patreon.com/Football Ramble. You'll get access to the Discord where you can chat with us and other Ramble listeners and get ad-free episodes of the Ramble up front and on the continent. And a reminder that if you want to get in touch with your stories, questions for the mailbag, or in response to anything at all, then email us, show@footballramble.com. That's show@footballramble.com. Right then, let's go to another game which had even more goals. Brentford 5, Wolverhampton Wanderers 3. Pete Donaldson. If you went to that game and you got up to get after,
I'd be full,
and you thought
full of goals.
Do you know what I'm going to do?
Stand up.
I'm going to get a hot dog way before half time.
Yeah.
Way ahead of the crowd. You'd be pig sick, wouldn't you?
Well, bearing in mind my timekeeping for football matches is awful, and I generally do miss the first 5 minutes of every football match I've ever been to. So I would have missed 2 goals.
Wolves obviously very aware, as we've all been, with Brentford scoring within the first minute. They thought to themselves, right, shut up shop for the first minute. But unfortunately, they forgot.
Oh no!
They forgot.
We didn't put a door on the shop.
They forgot about all the other minutes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so Brentford were made to wait until the second minute, as everybody pointed out. But I mean, it
is remarkable.
It's sensational. It's absolutely sensational.
It's a really interesting thing, isn't it? And it's part of a wider thing where teams are treating the kickoff as a set play now.
Yeah,
which is really fascinating to watch. And it's obviously it's not new to this season, but obviously Brentford are doing it so well that it's kind of put it under the spotlight a little bit.
And that's how they play. They like to be direct.
I mean, they did have to wait 45 minutes for a goal, which is bad in this match. I think their performance needed to...
Who had to wait 45 minutes?
The crowd. Surely. 45... Pinnock scored on 45 plus 2.
Yeah.
And then Carvalho scored on the 90th minute. So they did have... They did have a dull 45 minutes to wait. 44
Get all the hot dogs you want at half time.
Yeah. Have a couple of pints, it's fine.
Yeah, see, that was always my tip at football. You go just as the second half is starting, because everyone gets back in their seat, and
but then you're annoying people, aren't you?
Then you're missing the football,
you're missing
right?
the football.
No, like, as it's just about to kick off, so you don't. So yeah, okay, yeah. I don't mind.
But the difference
people.
is you don't drink, so you can consume whatever you buy in view of the pitch, but I can't because I have problems in my body.
Yeah,
you have problems
and
soul.
in my body and soul.
That's why I need it anyway.
Yeah. Well, Brentford, they were 3-2 up inside half an hour, which was incredible.
It's a brilliant match.
I love the fact that Wolves equalised so quickly.
Yes,
and it seemed. I mean, it was slightly similar in that with when Wolves were hammered at home by Chelsea, in that they were keeping pace with them, and then they were, this game's gone, and it went completely out of sight. But yeah, when Pinnock heads that one in, which is a beauty, the game was really sort of dead and buried. But Brentford haven't scored that many goals this season. This was the only third game they've won in the league this season. I say only. I mean, they're still, obviously after 7 games, it's not too shabby. But to score a hatful of goals like that, and the manner of the game, it gives them such a huge boost and such kind of affirmation in what they're doing into that international break as well. I mean, you can see Thomas Frank, he looked like the cat that got all the cream.
Yeah.
And they're on one. And Brian Mbeumo, I know it was a penalty he scored, but
he scored some great goals already this season.
I'm pretty sure he did this last season. The first few months of the season, he looks like the best player in the world.
It's like he's also subsumed Ivan Toney's penalty style.
Yeah,
Like,
he's
taking it
assumed
for
the best of
himself now.
Tony and Wisser as well. As
Yes.
he's injured because he was saying, obviously that they miss him and stuff. But
Why can't keepers just keep standing? Just standing.
Yeah, but that's the problem, though, because if you wait, then if it's stuck in the corner, the ball's going to move too quickly before you can go. You got to move before the kicker, usually, like Pickford did, although not that he needed to.
It's all a lottery anyway, isn't it?
It's a bloody lottery.
Yeah, you just buy a ticket and hope for the best.
Yeah.
But yes, Brentford were kind of irresistible, really, one has to say. And Wolves, despite scoring 3 goals away from home, which normally you take, gave Gary O'Neill what he called his worst game as a coach.
Yeah.
Oh.
Are you worried about Gag, Peter?
Well, he was talking about how even with the ball, Wolves just didn't have an idea, and they didn't. They were just kind of like every time they sit. From what I saw, they just like the sort of central defenders would be like, "Well, I need to give this to someone else," but no one seemed to be open.
Yeah.
So there didn't seem like there was a lot of energy to actually kind of make yourself open for a pass to be received. So if everyone's doing that, you're not going to have a nice time.
Well, no,
Even
and
with
a
5-3.
side like Brentford, who know what they're about as well, obviously with the players Brentford have and so on, they're never going to sort of be challenging for Champions League or anything like that, but they're a well-drilled and oiled machine. So at that level, they're going to take teams apart who show any kind of hesitancy or any kind of confusion in what they're doing.
Mikkel Damsgaard nearly had the assist of the season for something that didn't come off. A really, really brilliant little kind of switch of play in midfield, which is a great example of what you're talking about. But I think that's obviously a problem Wolves have come up against in this game. But I remember when we were sort of looking ahead to this one, you're looking at the run of teams Wolves have played, and you think, actually, all right, they've had a pretty difficult run here. So maybe now they will target this game as one in which to get something, or to at least be difficult to play against, because they're actually pretty good against Liverpool, apart from that really daft decision by Nelson Semedo, which gifted Liverpool a penalty. They were competitive and they looked good, but they just weren't at the races at all today. And like that's the thing where I think Gary O'Neill is now starting to sort of get quite philosophical about the nature of how likely it is to be sacked as a football manager, because he said the words "the football club" a lot, which people start like, I don't know why
I know
they
what
start,
you mean.
Being very formal.
Yeah,
when they think
sort of
about
like
being
name-
sacked.
He's not emotionally detached himself.
They don't name chairmans or CEOs, do
Yeah.
they? He basically talks about the club doing it for him.
The supporters of this club, whoever they are, don't know if I've met them.
It's worth mentioning that like Wolves did edge possession in this match.
Is it worth it?
And they scored 3 goals as well.
One of them was quite late on, wasn't it?
Still, yeah. Although one of Brentford's was quite late on as well, because this game just gave us a lot.
It really did. I mean, Wolves, though, they have a point. And when I say a point, I mean just 1 point.
Right.
Their worst start in 60 years. They've conceded 21 in 7 games, 2 more than Sheffield United had conceded at this stage last season.
City next as well.
Indeed. So there's that. They beat them at Molineux last season, Jim. If I was Gary O'Neill, I'd just play that video and go, we can do it, we can do it, we can do it. They haven't had a clean sheet, Wolverhampton Wanderers, in the league since a 2-0 win over the aforementioned Sheffield United back in February. The away fans were chanting at O'Neill, "You don't know what you're doing," in the second half when he took off Andre for Hwang Hee-Chan. It's looking bleak. And to be fair, our ferocious friend Luke Moore did suggest this before the season started, that he was worried for his bay, Gag O'Neill, and the way Wolves go. I think the only thing that may keep O'Neill in the job slightly longer is because of the financial situation at Wolves isn't too good, and maybe you know what it's like to sack managers and to hire managers. It costs a fair penny, but it costs a bigger penny if you go down the division.
Also, I mean, it's been said so many times, so I imagine for Wolves fans it's very boring to keep hearing this, but Max Kilman and Pedro Neto were big losses, and the players that have come in to replace them haven't as yet kind of kept them to that standard.
But booing because he brought off Andre for Hwang Hee-Chan is a big one, because Hwang Hee-Chan has popped up with the odd quite important goal here and there. So for him to get to be part of this kind of like criticism of the manager seems a bit off.
I mean, they do have some good players in there. I think Ryan Aït-Nouri is a great player.
If you look at
Matheus Cunha
going
as
away,
well.
going away at Brentford, like they've always scored goals, and manager was at pains to say they've always scored goals even when we've lost players, really important players like Tony. Like they've always scored goals with that system, and certainly at home, it's a pretty fun little season ticket, that one. So
yeah, indeed. But it was a great game for the neutral and Brentford fans. But yeah, the situation is beginning to look a little bit worrying, to say the least, for Wolves, who again, just to put it in context, they are below Southampton in the league.
Right, okay.
You know, they're on the same points, but goal difference, like that's how bad a start it's been.
Do you remember when I said I thought Nottingham Forest would struggle in the prediction?
Of course.
I meant Wolves, actually.
Did you?
Yeah.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, I thought you did.
Yeah, I know we often get those mixed up.
Yeah,
So,
we've got quite difficult handwriting, haven't we? So it might have looked like it said Forest. But it actually
because
said
Wolves live in the Forest.
Well, exactly.
Yeah, and in Nottingham, maybe, I don't know. Right, let's go down to the Championship, a league which Wolves may well find themselves in next season, but for their sake, we hope not. And in the Championship, Wayne Rooney was sent off.
Yeah.
For Plymouth Argyle at the end. He wasn't happy. Was not happy.
Well, it was
Peter?
clearly the catalyst for the goal.
Yeah, indeed. Well, they conceded late against Blackburn and then scored a 97th minute winner after Rooney had taken his jacket off and gone down the tunnel. I love that. That sort of, it's the only thing you can do. He knows if he kicks something, he could get in trouble. If he punches someone, he could go to prison.
Is this
I'm
kind
too
of
hot for this because I'm so angry.
Is this kind of aiding Plymouth's kind of clambering out of that league just simply because he's this kind of like lightning rod for all good things and bad things, really?
Maybe. I mean, they're up to 14th.
Well, according to online and that, compared to where they were last season, the fans are like really positive about the coaching thus far. Rooney ball, as they call it. A lot of people.
There's a lot of balls, isn't there?
A lot of their new signings are in. They've equipped themselves well from teams from players from Europe and stuff, and it seems to be going quite well.
Do you think?
Compared to where they were before?
And the great thing about the Championship is if you win, I don't know, 5 of your last 7 games in the season, you could win the league. You can finish second. Yeah. So it's all to play for.
They do have some tough fixtures at the end of October, though.
They do. Now we are going to speak about more Premier League stuff in a moment, but I do want to go to Germany for a brief minute. There was just absolutely incredible situation down in the Bundesliga 2 at the weekend. Greuther Fürth, if you remember them, drew 2-2 with second in the table, Magdeburg. And this was because 2 Magdeburg players on 2 separate occasions picked the ball up in their own penalty area because they thought the ref had blown his whistle and gave away penalties. It's not like that. If that happens once, it's outright. Like you don't. I reckon
it's not professional, is it?
Yeah, I can't remember the last time I saw that in the Premier League, if ever.
It becomes news, doesn't it, when a player does it?
Totally.
In fact, Gabriel got away with it in the Champions League against Bayern Munich last year.
Right.
But that's...
But if it does happen, you might say it's a silly free kick and there's a bit of, come on.
But it's rare.
Very, very rare. But for it to happen twice...
To the same team.
2 penalties in the same game is extraordinary.
I'm sure the crowd won't turn up with whistles next time they play that team.
It's worth checking out because you have to see it to believe it. It's brilliant. They said thanks very much. It was a bit of a shame, actually, because the goalkeeper saved one of the penalties, but then I think they got the rebound in.
That game needed fewer hands, not more.
Yeah. Indeed. All right, coming up after this, there was a big old scrap at Stamford Bridge. See you in a moment.
Ooh.
Before we get to the Battle of the Bridge, let's go to the Etihad, where Manchester City beat Fulham 3-2. I want to start with the sensational assist from Raul Jimenez.
Okay,
talk us through it.
It was a half-volleyed back-heeled assist. Do I need to say more? And the finish, even though it was from very close range, it was still a volley, which made that really satisfying as well. Jimenez is a delightful footballer. There's a touch of Berbatov about it.
Yeah. But the volley had the energy of someone giving you a dead arm at school.
Yeah, okay. Well, what was the...
It was a sort of bang, little poke.
Yeah, the Jimenez was... He's sort of twisted you up with beautiful arguments and I don't know
what. He's made an absolute mockery of you with words.
Indeed, yes. And then Pereira's just gone, boom, like Nelson at the end.
Do you not think that players who are really good at improvising don't get the respect that they deserve. Do you know what I mean? Like
sometimes because that improvisation doesn't come off.
Right. Okay. Fair. But I do think that kind of instinct to go and backing yourself is such a rare talent. I think, and Jimenez has got it in cupfuls.
He should have laid one on.
Should have.
Yes.
I implore everybody to rewind that and see. I want that VAR'd. How I said that. He should have had another assist for Pereira when he chose to shoot, but he should have laid it on. And this is the thing.
You've got to take those chances.
Come on, how many chances? I mean, obviously, Traoré.
Should have more like.
Don't you bloody start. Fulham, it could have been a famous result, that.
Yeah.
I mean, Traoré, he missed a couple, obviously, early on. There was one where it was for 2-0. And
what do you expect to happen?
Well, you said this about Timo Werner last week on the pod, that you just know he's not going to score.
Well, it's like he shoots at the keeper, isn't it? And I think that's a sign of a player
who's trying to nutmeg the
in that moment. Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, well, it was funny because
what would Raul do?
What would he do? Did you see Guardiola having a chat to him after the game?
Giving him the full Nathan Redmond.
Yeah, it was calmer, though.
Yeah.
It was, I think, calmer for Adama.
Well, because he'd sort of
he looked at his muscles and went... Yeah, I can't. I
can't go full Pep.
Yeah, okay.
No.
I'm going you next time, a little bit more in the corner. Okay.
Well, but what could he possibly have been saying? Because obviously it was just these are just gilt-edged chances that he didn't manage to sort of finish off.
Don't run so fast and wait for your teammates to catch up with you, and then you lay it on for them.
Yeah, okay.
That honestly, when he outpaced Carl Walker. 22 miles an hour it was clocked.
That is mad. It's also ridiculous.
He would have in London where it's all 20 miles an hour, he would have set off the cameras. That's how fast he went. That's just... the thing is that he's such a weapon, but he's just a bit blunt.
And we've been saying this about him for years, haven't we? And it is a real challenge for Marco Silva to unlock just the last bit.
Yes.
Because you'd have a devastating player there.
Oh my God, he'd be genuinely one of the best attackers in world football. But this is the thing, though. I mean, I talk about my love and affection and admiration for Marco Silva as much as I can on this show, which we often don't get to talk about Fulham. But my goodness, he really knows how to kind of dust down and sort of repurpose and repackage a play. I mean, look at Alex Iwobi, for example. Yeah. The performances that he's putting in for Fulham this season, and since he's been there really, but this season particularly, he's been great. Link-up play with Smith Rowe's been fantastic, and so on. I know
Jimenez as well.
Jimenez is another great example. I know Smith Rowe didn't start and again the weekend.
Do you know what the reason was for that?
I suspect that he wanted to play deeper,
right,
and hit them on the break, as they did, and it should have worked really. Fulham should not have lost this game. Usually, I mean, Smith Rowe's a starter for Fulham. He's their record signing or one of their record signings, and they usually play much more on the front foot. They play a higher line. It's funny because since Palhinha's gone, they've basically thought, we're all going to have to start tackling more, lads. So actually, let's try and squeeze the pitch and do all that kind of thing. But he can, as I say, do this with players who maybe have fallen on sort of slightly less fruitful times, as you mentioned, with Jimenez and one or two others. And he can do it with Traoré. I mean, Traoré was injured a bit last season and wasn't necessarily a starter, but he has scored this season. He's got a couple of goals here and there. He's doing a little bit better, but it is just that working on the finishing, a bit like. I know he's a different class of player and so on, but when Raheem Sterling went to Manchester City, there was often talk about his finishing would often let him down because he was so quick and so good, he would get into these positions. And Guardiola worked a lot and really turned Sterling into a guy who would score 15, 20 league goals or whatever it would be in the season. He would score a lot of goals. A decent return, exactly. And if Silva can do that a bit, just a bit, with Traoré, my goodness, they've got a player there. So, but
it's worth reminding everyone that the last time Man City lost at home, Argentina didn't have a World Cup in recent memory.
and that shows you the performance.
The gloves were unfucked.
Yeah, but it shows you the performance Fulham put in.
I mean, I think it's rare that City concede twice at home. They also gave up a lot more chances than you would normally expect them to.
Yeah.
Part of that is probably Traoré's pace.
Also with Rodri not being there.
Yeah, but it's Kovacic stepping in and essentially winning the game with his 2 goals is amazing, isn't it? And Doku's finish, though, the actual winner.
Do you think that's what
swerve on that?
Is that what Guardiola
what a thing to behold?
Was that what Guardiola was saying to Traoré? See what happened there? That's what you do. That's how you hit to the ball, you fool. Laces, mate, laces. So I think, though, and a lot was said about this, and I think it's worth reiterating that there'll be a fair few teams looking at that thinking, can City be got at? But look at what Fulham did. Now, again, I understand some of those chances come because of Traoré's pace, but actually there were other chances there. There were other things, and without Rodri, they did look a little bit more open. We know the stats of him playing in that side and not playing in that side.
Pace almost did for Man City against Newcastle in behind the back on the wings. It's a weird sort of situation for Pep to have to sort of deal with, but yeah, they can be got at.
Well, the fact
briefly,
indeed, but the fact is he put on a defender late on in the game. Was unlike him to sort of think, well, let's make sure we kind of shore this up.
Surely Kyle Walker's pace isn't infinite. Maybe all the managers should get together and just say for every game, look, have someone just run at him constantly. I'm trying to wear him out. It's been going on for too long.
By the time he gets to put cold weather tyres on, he's fucked.
Oh dearie me, but yeah. So, but still a win for Manchester City. Still a win. Now, did you hear that Kevin De Bruyne, of course, was there was reports of him maybe going to Saudi Arabia in the summer. Apparently, Cristiano Ronaldo wants him to go to Al Nassr. I'm sure he does.
That's worth a few more goals, isn't it, before he ends his career?
I know the supermarket's getting early, Ronaldo, but it isn't Christmas.
No.
Okay?
It's like being summoned by the Emperor, though, isn't it?
Indeed, and it's unlikely that you're going to have a Christmas there. So, just, here's my next wish list. Like, just come on.
A De Bruyne for Christmas, Daddy.
Oh, I don't know. But Liverpool, though, are still top of the table, despite Manchester City winning, because they beat Crystal Palace 1-0.
Yeah, I mean, we could have started the show with this, really. Liverpool looks so impressive. Especially because...
Despite it only being 1-0.
Well, exactly, because they weren't at their best against Wolves and they still won. They looked really, really comfortable on Saturday, despite it only being 1-0. And those are difficult challenges to overcome sometimes. Sometimes you have to kind of... overcome the problems that you set yourself, which is like, we're only going to score one goal today, so let's make sure we don't lose. They've clearly got a lot in the box already, and we're so at the beginning of Slot's reign.
Yes, but I mean, airtight at the back, really.
Yeah,
they've conceded 2 goals. Manchester City have conceded 8. Arsenal, who are obviously fantastic at the back, have conceded 6. 2 goals.
That's phenomenal.
It really is.
I'm surprised by that.
Yeah, because I think we focus on their forward line, understandably, because it's been so devastating in previous seasons. They've scored 13, by the way, so they're not really lacking in that. But at the back, they're just not conceding. And so when you think, okay, well, I mean, I even said it myself, they only won 1-0. But actually, if you're that sort of... I know... 1-0 is almost as dangerous as going 2-0 up, of course, in football. But that's where they really, really have excelled under Slot.
I think the Premier League manager gets a bit more rope these days because of what the Arsenal setup has sort of gone through, and obviously they're having a nice time. But to see such really positive signs so early is very un-Premier League, and it's maybe we'll just see a raft of firings sooner rather than later. Was it stuff like this?
Was it a positive sign for Liverpool that Jordan Henderson visited the training centre this week?
I'm not going to ring ahead. My pass doesn't work, but I'm not going to ring ahead.
Here he is.
What's he going to say? What's he going to do? He'll join the setup at some point, won't he? He seems like the kind of guy who would sort of get a kick out of coaching.
Did you also see Ivan Toney popping back to Brentford recently?
Everyone was going back at the weekend.
Pascal Gross was at Brighton, wasn't he? Everyone's saying their hellos.
What would have conversation with Toney? I mean, like, did he? Was he? I don't know.
Minted, baby. Woo!
Oh, bet it's hot out there.
Yeah, exactly. Like, how are you guys getting on? Yeah, we started the season really well. Did you see the Wolves game? What fun that was. What about you, Tone? A lot of money. Yeah, a lot of money.
I sleep on a bed of money.
You nicked my penalty.
Yeah. All right, let's go to Chelsea 1, Nottingham Forest 1. A hectic end to the match.
The score does not do the entertainment level of this game justice.
Punching, getting thrown, fantastic.
It was only 1-1 because both goalkeepers became supermen.
Yeah.
38 shots.
Yeah.
9 on target for Forest, 8 on target for Chelsea.
The saves at the end of that game.
Amazing.
Because when Nico Williams has that chance, bear in mind they're down to 10. And still with 10 they could have won it. I understand they could have lost it, but they could have won. He does nearly everything right. He opens the body, sticks it into the corner, and the save that Sanchez made is absolutely phenomenal. And then Chelsea go down the other end. And the save from Sells as well. I understand that Nkunku put it sort of fairly close to his body, but I mean, when you're dealing
coming at him though.
When you're dealing with the fact is that normally that would cannon off the keeper into the net.
Yeah.
It was a phenomenal save.
Yeah.
It was breathtaking stuff. And then Sanchez does it again with perhaps an even better. It was Gordon Banks-esque, I would go as far to say.
High praise indeed.
Yeah.
James Ward-Prowse with a fascinating decision as well. I saw
it was either that or doing a Phil Jones, wasn't it? Really, with his head.
It was a bit, yeah. The miscontrol. It reminded me a little bit of like a Steven Gerrard slip.
Right.
Yeah.
And he just went in.
Do you think it's just like the natural instinct to just protect your face took over and the ball happened to be there?
Yeah.
Because otherwise,
maybe.
as you say, it is like just like land face first.
It was kind of like when you jump into a hotel bed and they've got a really nice big pillow and you're like, oh, lovely, come here. Oh. And then give you a little squeeze.
It's one of the specialist hotels.
Just one of the specialist hotels, yeah.
You dirty,
after I've done me poo.
You dirty little man.
You dirty little man.
You little rotter.
Yeah. I get lubed up and I jump into the pillow and go, whoa, lovely.
God.
Lovely. This is going to be a terrible weekend for everyone.
Oh, dear.
I already thought we had to apologise to the Nottingham Forest fans enough after what we've been saying this season.
Oh, dear. Yeah.
But Forest were, as I said before, competing a very physical performance from them. A little bit too physical at times, and obviously they had to send it off. I did enjoy the way that JWP kind of walked in and then walked out, and then adjusted his socks and then went, oh yeah, I'm off on it.
Yeah.
On the off chance that I'm not going to be off, I'll adjust my socks.
Absolutely.
Turn round.
Yeah.
Grandpa Simpsoned it right out of there.
Yeah.
See you later.
Do you think he walked off because he knew he was off, and then
he
for
thought,
a moment he thought,
maybe I'm leading the witness here. Maybe I shouldn't be doing this.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, and it was like, no.
I've just remembered what I've done.
Chris Wood's finish was brilliant. Just fourth of the season.
Yeah,
I think he flies under the radar a little bit, doesn't he, in terms of how consistent
Ironically.
he is with goals. Yeah,
He's massive.
he is huge. But it's a tough finish, that, because it's coming at him really quick. Proper poacher's goal.
It was, yeah. It was a lovely one.
Enjoying his time there.
And Forest have started the season well, as have Chelsea, really. I think that, Chelsea up in fourth. I mean, 4 points off the top. They'd be very happy with that, I think, with the new manager and all the kind of crazy stuff that's going on there. But tensions did spill over, despite all that at the end of the game, when Nico Williams sort of pushed Mark Cucurella, who ended up going into the manager, Enzo Maresca.
The chaos muppet at his absolute best.
Yeah, he loves it, doesn't he?
Him and Wesley Fofana are both about to serve suspensions because they've both already had 5 yellows.
So early in the season, 7 games in. Like, it's just ridiculous.
Like, are they trying to get Halloween off?
I've no idea. Yeah, maybe, but that was a bit for Premier League standards. It was a bit of a ruckus, wasn't it?
Yeah,
I don't think Nicholas Jackson's going to escape a banning order.
Do you think he might get in trouble?
I think he might get in trouble for that.
Will Cole Palmer get in trouble by Chelsea for just not caring?
That was amazing.
just sitting down like,
For anyone who missed it, while the brawl was sort of happening, Cole Palmer's just nearby, just has a little gaze over at what's happened, sits down, has a little roll.
Yeah.
Just has a little roll back and forth like a kid, and then just sits there watching it.
But he was at a safe distance, and then it kind of spilled over towards him, and he still just stands there, or sits there rather.
It's like he's not thinking at all. It's like he's meditating, but like by accident.
He's just planning the next move.
I don't think he's doing anything mentally.
Well, maybe that's it. He should have scored, Cole Palmer.
He should have.
But it was a great double save.
Brilliant move to get himself
a week off, isn't he?
Yeah, funny though, when he scored 4 the other week, do you know what I thought? He should have had 6.
Yeah.
So did he, didn't he? Clearly. He's so good. It cannot be overstated how good he is. It's so exciting.
Jim, he's going to be wearing an England shirt.
He is going to be England's best player for the next generation. For sure.
Oi, he's going to put Phil Foden on the bench.
That's how it's anyway. International Week, Marcus. We've got
to get all this Premier League crap out the way.
Rubbish out the way.
Don't worry, we'll be with you soon with the international football, everybody. But I am rather excited, as you can tell. But yeah, now. Yes. But speaking of that, actually, if you wouldn't mind, Noni Madueke and Morgan Gibbs-White came off injured in that game, so that is a bit of a shame. I mean, because Madueke had been called up, of course, because he's been having a good season. Scored again. Could have had one or two more, but he did get his goal. But it's been, like I say, it's been a decent start to the season for Chelsea. There's no doubt. I think they've gone beyond the expectations of many, and so they'll take stock just ahead of this international break. Now, before we get to the very end of the show where we say goodbye, I want to talk about a former England man, Andy Carroll.
A long man.
We've talked about long man Carroll for a bit, of course, being at Bordeaux, as they're in the 4th tier of French football after they filed for bankruptcy last summer, and a very, very proud and historic club. not a Champions League club not that long ago, of course, have gone all the way down, and they needed a bit of experience. They needed something to try and help them fight their way back up, and who better than Andy Carroll to do it? He scored a brace as Bordeaux won their first game of the season on the weekend. He looks at home in the French fourth tier.
He does, because it's a league where you can really thrive with just headers.
Big old headers, isn't it?
A corner is like not quite a penalty, but it's like a free kick on the edge of the box with him.
It's almost like being an American football player, where you can specialise in a particular thing.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, like in hockey, bring on for the penalty corners.
Yes.
Bring that guy on. And Carroll's there. He's having a lovely. It's great to see. And the thing is, though, with the French fourth tier, it did look like non-league football.
Yeah.
And it's like
it's not. They're not playing in a stadium. It's actually a park.
It just look very parky.
But non-league.
There are people on the hill.
They're advertising hoarding.
There are people on the hill that appear to be in the forest. Like, there's a beautiful forest behind the pitch, and it just seems like did those people pay or did they just
Carroll?
Are they wood nymphs that's coming out of the forest?
Well, if anyone's going to bring them out of the forest, you'd imagine it would be Long Andy.
Yeah, well, he does look like a kind of European folktale, I suppose, doesn't he?
Yeah,
Some players do have that.
That's true, yeah.
There's mutton chops.
But those goals he scored, as listener David Zero put on X, that's a blue passport goal if ever I've seen one. It is good to see him, though.
Yeah, everyone's sort of saying that Bordeaux are like bottom of the league or third bottom of the league, but they have only played 5 matches and everyone else has played 7. It's one of those leagues that is split into like 4 and for different areas, presumably, of France, and because it's a big old country, and
European standards.
And they'll have a lot of fixture congestion in the next few weeks, I think. So,
do you think? Well,
I'm glad we can put that right.
Yeah,
because everyone's saying it.
Yeah, I don't think International Week will bother them. No, good to clarify, Peter.
Call him up.
Good to
We've got a fixture. We've got a striker crisis. We've got a striker crisis.
He's a really forward-thinking coach. He's thinking about what we do out of possession.
You're allowed one, just to prove the rule.
He's wanting triangles and all that.
Just to prove how forward-thinking you are. You're allowed one silly nonsense.
We've got a corner. It's the 90th minute. Hey, we're drawing against Finland. Well, I don't know.
Cheers for watching another fantastic clip from the Football Ramble podcast. Make sure you click like on this video and subscribe to the channel, which means you will not miss a single upload.